Hey, welcome back. And if you're new to the channel, I'm Jay, and this is Lunarkottarot, where I bring you weekly tarot and oracle deck reviews to inspire your readings. And today is going to be a little bit different. No cinematic intros or flashy b-rolls. I'm just going to sit down and talk to you about some of the decks that I'm genuinely excited about. The decks I'll be showing you today, they're all on Kickstarter. Some of the campaigns are still open, some aren't. But they're definitely worth a look. Let's dive in. Right, before I'll show you the decks that I'm excited about, let's talk about what Kickstarter actually is, if you've never dealt with this. Kickstarter is not a shop. Think of it as a marketplace where, let's say you're a creator, maybe an engineer came up with a new electric bike idea, or maybe you're an author and you would like to publish a book. And of course, for that you need money, right? So Kickstarter is a platform where you can go and publish your project, just explain what it's about, and then you can get people to back it up with the money. So obviously you make an estimate how much it's going to cost, and once you collect enough to manufacture, you can then start production. There are some really famous products that came out from Kickstarter. For instance, the Atomic Kittens game, you probably heard of. Some electronics like a Pebble Watch and Oculus Rift that became a huge product. And Kickstarter is pretty much still true to its original content. You can see all kinds of products here, from art to food, games. I don't even know what you have in journalism. I would say it's probably a documentary, but you get all kinds of things. And as you can imagine, this is a perfect place for a tarot deck creator. And the first deck that I would like to show you is from this little publisher called Los Carabeo. And of course, I've been facetious here because Los Carabeo is powerhouse of tarot decks, and I reviewed a few of them on my channel, and it's probably one of my favorite publishers because of this very striking, punchy artwork. And this deck is no different. And I saw it being on Kickstarter. I jumped in my chair and I had to jump on it, not just in the chair, but also on this project. Interestingly enough, I didn't expect Los Carabeo to put a project like this on Kickstarter, because it's a huge publisher. They can just publish a deck. I'm not sure what exactly happened here, but this is a deck that is based on Frank Frazetta's artwork. And if you don't know who Frank Frazetta is, he's a guy behind a lot of posters and book covers for fantasy genre from the 70s and 80s. He painted Tarzan novel covers, also did Conan the Barbarian, and a whole bunch of other things. You can imagine it's a perfect fit for Los Carabeo aesthetic. It's basically a tribute to Frank's work. He passed away in 2010, I think, and his granddaughter collaborated with Los Carabeo to publish deck based on his artwork. Now let me show you a bit of artwork here. So it's just the packaging that you can order, different ones. I went for the Tarot Deck Kit edition because it comes with a guidebook, and I learned from my past mistakes of not getting a guidebook for Kickstarter projects. Sometimes you get a deck that has some lore and interesting story behind it, but if you haven't got a guidebook, you sort of have to figure it out, and they may not even be able to search for it online because quite often they come out with a very small number of copies. Now this is the artwork. Here's the man himself. You also get some of the characters which I mentioned, and you can see how this fits really well what you would normally expect on Los Carabeo deck, but it's got its own flair, obviously, because of Frank's work. It's a beautiful deck, and when I saw the artwork, I was immediately convinced that this is something I want to get on. Now, if you're not familiar with Kickstarter stretch goals, it's basically if the funding meets certain thresholds, they then can assign some of the money that's been provided to the project to add extra bits. Sometimes there's extra cards, sometimes they put gilding on the cards or improve the box, and this is what we have here. So they're adding an extension to a booklet. They also added the UV effect, and they also put silver gilded edges on all cards, which is beautiful. Now, it cost a bit to get the deck because I'm in the rest of the world, unfortunately. It's gonna cost me a bit to get it here, and that's quite common with European decks, by the way. Now, there is no question if this deck was generated by AI, obviously, because it's based on Frank's original work. The deck is coming in September, which is not that far away, and had a pretty decent number of backers, 695, which I think it's pretty big. I'm not sure if this deck is gonna find its way to Etsy. I hope it does, because the project has already closed, unfortunately, and I promise I'm gonna show you some decks that are still open and you can participate in them. Unfortunately, this one is already gone. Now, this next deck I would like to share with you, it has a bit of a cult following on the internet, and it was originally published in 1991. It was received with a huge success. It's a deck based on pagan mythology, and this is a creator, Mark Rhyme, and there was a lot of interest on getting this deck republished, but it never happened, and until now. So when I saw this on Kickstarter, I was astonished it was there in the first place. Learning a little bit about what it was, I got even more interested. And the story behind this deck goes back to the 90s. It's got quite a deep symbolism behind it. There's more of it here on the page, but this is what the box looks like. I'll show you a couple of cards as well. Because he has got a very unique look to it, and there's a little bit of background on what this deck is and story behind it. Now, because it uses its own system, you would need to have a guidebook with it. There's a bit of a story here on how this deck came about in the first place, and because the project met all the goals, it's got huge backing. Over 1,000 people backed it, and I think initially they were hoping to get $14,000, and now it's sitting at 180 plus thousand Australian dollars. The backers will be getting all these extra rewards, like an extra cards and certificate of authenticity from the artist, which didn't come with the original deck. So I think it's a really good value. Now, the deck will be available in September, so I'm going to get it around the same time I'll get the Los Carabeo deck. Looking at the design, I think it will be good for ancestral reading, or maybe some spiritual readings as well. Now, this deck wasn't cheap. It's £70, which is around 150 Australian dollars, plus there's shipping. And it had a few other options there as well, but I think this was probably the best value, because you do need a book with this, as I mentioned, and getting the deck by itself, well, seems a bit more budget friendly with £50. I think getting a guidebook is totally worth it. All right, I know you're a little bit annoyed probably now because I showed you two amazing decks in my books and you cannot back them. The next three decks I'll show you, you can. These are still active, and hopefully by the time you get this video, you can still go and have a look yourself. Rabbit Tarot deck. Now, this deck, there's a simple reason behind why I wanted to be a part of this project, just because of its sheer cuteness. It has rabbits on pretty much every card, and this is RWS based deck where each card character has been replaced with really cute rabbits. And if you've never been to Australia, in our capital, Canberra, you can see a lot of rabbits jumping around Parliament House, and they're same cute as they are on this deck. So I thought it was just a really cool deck to have in your collection. I think it could be even your deck in rotation. Just because of the imagery, I think it's one of those decks it'll be good to pull out on a rainy day, or if you have no motivation to do any work. And I didn't go for the guidebook option. I went with a deck, which I think is going to be okay with this one, because this is pretty much RWS, just with a cuteness amplified to 10 out of 10 probably. It's pretty good artwork, and you just can't look at this without smiling. I mean, pretty impressive. Now, so impressive that this deck got a lot of support. And I think the artists initially went very modest. I don't think they expected that much interest in this deck. There's no AI in this deck. It's all done by hand with digital art, and you can see it here, the whole process. You can also get add-ons with this. The guidebook, I think it's a pretty book, but if you collect decks, you know that your space becomes a precious commodity, and if I can get something in a more compact packaging, I would go with that option. But of course, I can totally see how someone would want to have a card pouch or get some of those stamps or mini keychains. Now, this is not the first rodeo for Louise. She has done another deck, was Cat Tarot deck on Kickstarter. It looks like whatever this lady touches, it turns into gold. So that was extremely successful deck as well. And it's relatively modestly priced, I would say, for what it is. So I went for a standard edition. It cost me £34 for the deck. It's a bit of a timeline here, and this is previous work that I mentioned. Now moving to the next one. This is another project that I'm really interested in. Initially, I was looking at artwork and I felt, I don't know if it's for me, but then I had a closer look and I thought, this is actually a really, really cool deck. Extremely popular. I think they already have a pledge of $350,000 there with 3,000 backers. It's huge. So this deck is based on Ukrainian folklore. Beautiful artwork, really dark. I think this deck would be amazing for ancestral readings, shadow work. Also, if you collect decks with a bit of a folk history behind them, and I have a couple in my collection, I reviewed one of them on this channel, it'll be a fantastic addition to it. Let's have a quick look at the cards and you'll get an idea what this is about. And with this deck, all the obviously stretch goals have been met, and this deck is getting loads of upgrades. So this is the artwork. And a nice touch there, you've got the name of the cards in English and Ukrainian, which is pretty cool. I recognize some of the characters here just because of growing up and being familiar with Ukrainian stories and fairy tales. It's beautiful artwork here. And to me, this looks like an RWS deck. I was trying to get my hands on this deck a little bit earlier and reached out to the creator, Maria. Unfortunately, this deck won't be available until next year. And she offered me digital versions of the cards, and I thought I would like to have a deck in my hands to review it, because obviously we want to look at the artwork, we want to look at the paper quality and all the other bits and pieces and presentation. And it looks like we're gonna have to wait for a little bit on this one. And this deck has a lot of add-ons here as well. So if you decide to go all out and get yourself a wooden tarot box and reading cloths and incense sticks, you can do that for 400 euros. Unfortunately, Australian custom laws are quite strict, and I don't think I'll be able to bring the wooden box, but I'm pretty happy with my choices, so I decided to go with a single deck. Now this is the guidebook, an example of a print. And there's also a digital version as well, if you don't want to get the actual printed version and maybe save yourself some money. That's a box, really nice. And some of the magic candles you can get with it as well. It's pretty cool. I think it's a really good packaging. Now, because we met all the stretch goals, it's going to be free stickers and upgraded box, which will be nice. A tarot journal, extra card, and divination tool. I'm not sure what that is going to be. Maybe pendulum, and a free metal coin. There was no AI used for this, and I'm quite like it. They put this devil banishing the AI. It's a good touch, and a timeline here. As I mentioned, we won't see this until early next year, so it's probably about 9 months away. Now the next deck I'll be showing you comes from Italy. It's a creator called DEC, and This deck is a culmination of years of work. Do you see David? He's got a huge following on Instagram. I think he's got about 250,000 subscribers. And this is not his first deck. The artwork is absolutely amazing on this deck. And this poster design, it's sort of like a story keeps going. I'm not sure how he came up with this idea, but it looks really cool. And this is a story of transformation of the hummingbird man, which you can see here. And this is the author, David Eduardo Cassano. Now, this whole deck is drawn by hand. He's a traditional artist, which is also a huge bonus to this. He actually put it on the poster for this deck that there's no AI used for this. And it's quite a dividing topic, I think, between members of Tarot community. The design of the cards is quite amazing too. You'll see it in a second. I like how this golden gilding is mixed with the black backing of a card. It looks very cohesive. And that's not the only coolest part. There's so many. There's a lot of lore behind this deck. And I think you absolutely need the guidebook. And a cool thing about it as well, David gives you a PDF version of the guidebook as well. Now, it's not the cheapest deck with shipping and everything. So I decided to opt for a standard pack, which gives me access to the digital deck and the guidebook, and of course the physical deck itself. So a bit of a closer look at the design. Amazing design box as well. Quite a thick paper too. I think it'll be quite amazing deck. And gold gilded, of course. It's an example of Major Arcana card. It's more here. Now let me show you another feature I quite like about this deck. Look at this. Each card of this deck is actually a part of a bigger image. And I've seen these decks online, but I've never actually had one in my collection. So I'm really looking forward to get this. And I'm not sure if it's all of the suits of Minor Arcana will get this, but I think it's quite amazing what he's done here. In terms of what it can be used for, I can see there's a lot of dark imagery here, so naturally shadow comes to mind. But the rest of it, we're gonna try and see. I also have a feeling that this could be a collector's deck, just because of how beautiful this is, and I think I will probably be very careful when I use it, so I wouldn't riffle shuffle it or have it in my rotation. So it's definitely a collector piece and maybe shadow reading, but the rest, once I get my hands on the deck, I can then work with it and figure it out. I hope you enjoyed this deck. I'm looking forward to have them in my hands so I can review them on this channel. If you find this useful, feel free to subscribe. And if you would like me to put a guide on how to pick decks like this on Kickstarter, if you would like to learn about the platform more, let me know in the comment section. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.